Hello and welcome to the Emma's for Mama podcast. I'm your host, Abby Halberstadt, happy wife, mama to 10, Bible-believing Christian, and I have one of my favorite people in the world on the show today. Jennifer Flanders is someone that I look up to and admire greatly, and yet she's someone that I can also relate to on so many levels. And I know that she's going to be a huge blessing to you as we cover a wide variety of topics today. And I want to remind you that it is still possible to pre-order my brand new book, You Bet Your Stretch Marks. I mentioned at the end of the show why this is so important, but I'll say it here as well. Those pre-orders tell retailers that you want this book, you're interested in this book, and it makes them order more of them. And if they order more of them, then they get motivated to sell them, and then more people get to access the book, is really how the publishing world goes these days. So I'm giving you that little sneak peek behind the curtain so that you guys know that it is such a blessing to me when people pre-order, and I am so grateful for each one that you're able to do. I also want to highlight, before we jump into the conversation with Jennifer, our podcast sponsor, Adele Natural Cosmetics. Adele is a favorite of mine because their ingredients are non-toxic. They are handmade, small batch. It's a family-owned company here in Texas. They love the Lord. I've met that family personally, and they are a delight. And they really care about the products and the ingredients that they put in their products so that you can pronounce all of the ingredients easily and that they are safe and effective for all skin types. I particularly love their facial stick, which is good for all skin types, but particularly for those who are acne or redness prone. It's just so soothing. And you can use the code Emma's for Mama for 25% off your first order at AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com. I also want to mention our podcast sponsor, the Kings Ridge elderberries. They have everything from cold pressed elderberries to their raw, fresh frozen berries, as well, of course, as their super tasty elderberry syrup, which is my favorite I have ever tried, and my kids really love it too. The Kings Ridge Elderberries is a family-owned farm in Indiana, and their elderberry syrup is packed with antioxidants and vitamins to help boost your immune system this upcoming cold and flu season. You can use the code MAMA10 for 10% off of any of their products at tkrfarm.com. The Kings Ridge Elderberry Syrup. That's tkrfarm.com, MAMA10 for your discount code. Taste the difference, help push back the curse. Hey friends, I am back with one of my favorite people in the world. This is Jennifer Flanders. She is my very good friend, and I would say mentor, who you have 12 children, yes. Jennifer. Yes. And your youngest three are the same age as my oldest three, and the same gender in the same order.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Almost, I mean, they're very close. Mm-hmm. And we first met, we've done a podcast before. So you can go back and look at that. That was we're talking about the child-free movement and kind of a biblical response to it. But today I wanted to have her on because my brand new book, she brought hers, and she's the most organized person I know. She has like little sticky notes all throughout it, which I find very flattering because that means that she found something that she wanted to mark.
Absolutely.
You're so sweet.
A lot. You see.
Yeah.
Some of these pages are like almost completely underlined. So.
You're so kind. Well, and it's especially flattering because Jennifer is the first person that sees any of my work. So she's my, what I call de facto editor, meaning that she volunteers and aggressively asks for chapters. Yeah. She's like, have you done chapter 2 yet? Very nicely, aggressively, but like pursues that. And so that's been such a special way that our friendship has deepened. But anyway, Jennifer, for those that have not heard the first podcast or maybe are not familiar with you, tell others a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I have 12 children.
And that's all we need to know. I'm kidding.
Yes, that's funny. Actually, I went to a women's a book study this summer with some women from my church that I had never met before. And I got there early the first day and introduced myself to the hostess, and she found out I had 12 children, and she's multiplying her number of children and her number of activities and all that kind of stuff by a factor to get to 12, and thinking I'm doing, 6 times what she's doing or 4 or whatever it is. And so I was trying to explain to her, no, our life looks really different. We've made different choices. We homeschool. I don't have to go to the pickup lines. We really guard our time together at night. evenings. And so we don't do a lot of travel team sports and stuff like that. And so for the rest of the summer, she would introduce me to newcomers as, this is Jennifer. She has 12 children, but that's not like it sounds because they never do anything. So
okay. So I'm going to interject that the Flanders family is the opposite of never doing anything. I think you've done a wonderful job of structuring your family activities to be very family nucleus oriented.
Yes.
But you guys do a ton.
We do a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
We do a lot. And we have a lot of fun. Anyway, so yes, we have 12 children. We have soon to be 25 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh,
and
I didn't realize you were that
yes,
high. Wow.
Yes, 25 is, number 25 is due in, I think, March.
Okay.
So
that's amazing.
And most of them are local in Texas. We have, and even Rachel's back now. She got back on Wednesday.
So Rachel is her
22-year-old.
22-year-old. I don't know why I had her so high. Daughter that went with us to Europe for 45 days and helped, count heads and bring up the rear, which Shiloh was her special buddy. And she was such a blessing to us. So, and she's been nannying in Germany.
Yes. She enjoyed that so much. She went and spent a year in Germany and she just got back this week. So we're really thankful to have her back home. But so the only ones now, we have one in Texas that's down south in San Antonio, and then one that lives in South Korea for another year. And then they'll be in Germany for probably 3 more years after that. So.
Well, and the interesting thing about your having almost 25 grandchildren, or having 25 grandchildren, that baby in the womb counts.
Yes, that's right.
Is that a lot of your kids are not married yet.
Yes,
right?
that's only 5 that are working on. Yeah.
So, and then of course, one of your sons has how many children?
10.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's contributing a pretty good chunk.
Yes. The oldest has 10.
Yes. So, tell us about some of these many things that you don't do or do.
Yes. Well, I think some of them probably would sound boring to somebody that is constantly on the go, because we do a lot of reading together as a family. We, have meals together. We memorize scripture together. We homeschool, but we also travel a bunch.
Yeah, you guys travel a bunch.
Yeah, we travel and we do some sports. It's not like we never do sports. We just don't do the travel team where you're gone every other weekend. We do homeschool variety where dads go out and teach the kids for 2 hours a week. And you're done in 6 weeks, soccer or.
Right. Or you guys have done, and my kids have participated in this too, like pick up ultimate Frisbee.
Yes.
And that's what I grew up with. I was homeschooled as well. And we had a super wholesome, very sports oriented, mixed gender group that we just constantly made our own fun.
Yes.
Like we were doing pick up soccer games and pick up basketball games and pick up ultimate Frisbee and playing racquetball and playing ping pong tournaments. But we just kind of were very much so self-starters. It was like, there's nothing to do. Well, we'll make something to do.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And that has been the case for our kids too, because we've tried to minimize screens at the house. We don't do a lot of video games and stuff like that. And so they do. It really encourages creativity, and because we have so many of them, they're able to do things like I did alone as a child. When I was a child, I was able to go to the park and spend all day Saturday hiking the creek and looking for tadpoles all by myself, which I probably wouldn't let a child do that
neither would I.
these days. But because we have so many, they're able to go in a group and still enjoy a lot of those freedoms. They plan adventures together and they'll do it as a group. We love that.
Yeah.
5 of them just went to California this summer as a group
awesome.
To tour a bunch of, they paid for their own plane tickets and went out there and toured 5 different national parks. And I love the fact that the homeschooling and all of that, you talked about collective culture within the home, where you're not just doing one-on-one time, but you're doing things with the whole family. Really fosters friendship that carries on long after they leave your home. I love the fact that my children still love to be with one another,
and we're just kind of letting this conversation go where it will, because we're such good friends and we we don't get to see each other that often.
No.
But when we do, we get up really early and go to Chick-fil-A at like 6 a.m. and we talk for like 3 hours. And we could talk.
I think it was 4 last
It probably was.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and we could keep going. So you're going to get some of that vibe today. But so I'm just going to popcorn off of what you just said, because I know there are a lot of moms out there that are thinking, how in the world did you manage to create a culture in your home where your kids wanted to go to California together when they were all capable of paying for their own tickets? Why did they choose each other? Because these are the questions that I get asked all the time as well. My kids are not as old as most of yours, and, you know, not quite to the go to California on their own and tour national parks. And they probably honestly wouldn't choose that because we haven't even traveled much to national parks. So what I want you to hear with whatever Jennifer says, because I know she'll do a great job of answering this, is if she says something and you're like, well, we don't do that, then this can't be achieved. That's not what we're telling you. We've never toured many national parks. So if my kids chose to go on a trip together, it probably wouldn't be to national parks. That's not part of our family culture particularly. But they do enjoy doing things together and choose to do things together still and already. And just because that looks differently, the goal is still the camaraderie, not the specific activity, right? So any tips?
I think I would just start early with, I mean, wherever you are right now and whatever age, do what you can to allow your children to do things that appeal to them. You know, I think there's this tendency to overprotect in our culture right now, where moms are afraid to give any freedom to their children to explore and to flex their muscles of independence and learn to do things on their own. And I think that, you know, it's a gradual thing. You don't just like keep them sequestered in your own backyard until they're 20 and then suddenly they're going to California. No, it's gradual. It's kind of like a kite that you're letting the string out slowly. You want to just unspool it. And as they're getting older, they're gaining more responsibility, but also more freedom. And so we've let our kids, you know, the older ones have planned adventures for the younger ones all growing up.
I think the big question that people will have, though, is how did you get to them to the point where they wanted to do those adventures together? Yes, I 100% agree. You let their, like yesterday, or maybe it's the day before, my boys made my 5 youngest, which are 10, 8, 6, 4, 4, all got in there in the living room. And I mean, it looked trashed. Like every pillow was pulled off. Every blanket was pulled out. We had been about to fold laundry. So the laundry had been in a basket, but instead it was liberally sprinkled throughout the room. You know, there were stuffed animals everywhere, and they had pulled all the chairs into the room so they could drape all the blankets over, just a giant fort.
Yes.
And I told them, I was like, you walk in there and you're kind of like, oh man, there's so much visual chaos. Like, I wish we could just not do this. Yes. Right. So I think one thing that I would say on my end is try to resist that knee-jerk reaction to messes, because you will shut down some opportunities for them to learn collective play and to get along and to work together and clean up together if your knee-jerk reaction is, oh, you made a mess, fix it kind of thing. Sure, that was what my brain said, but what I said was, okay, you guys have fun, but remember you have to clean all of this up.
Yes.
And so I shared a video on my Instagram because I went upstairs to do laundry, and then I came back downstairs ready to tell them, hey, remember you have to clean up. And they already were, which is unusual. I just want to make that very, very clear. Normally I would have to be like, hey guys, it's about time, but for whatever reason, they wanted to move on to the next activity. They had remembered that I had said, you cannot do the next activity before you clean up. And, so I took a video of them cleaning, which was about 6 minutes long. Just hilarious, like twirling in circles, throwing socks in the air before they put them in the thing. Somebody stuffed all the blankets in the thing, then they wouldn't fit. Then Theo pulled them out and folded them, and then all the pillows got put back, but then turned back. It was just so. And then I sped it up, so it was very entertaining to watch, because it's satisfying to watch the things actually clean themselves up in a little more timely fashion. but someone said, "Oh, it's like watching an adorable ant farm." You know,
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's just like tiny little people just running around, and you can see Shiloh
just carrying little bitty pieces.
carrying little bitty pieces. It eventually got done.
That's
like
right.
I said, real time was about 6 minutes. My husband watched it and he goes, "Did you see Shiloh flex for the camera at some point?" I was like, "No, I missed that." But it was just fun to watch them be so cooperative.
Yes,
not efficient by any stretch, but cooperative and productive. And even though there might have been a part of me that was like, "Oh, I could just do this so much more easily," or wanted to micromanage.
Yeah.
And I did have some pointers for them.
Yes.
Like the folding of the blankets. Everybody was like, I just said, "That thing's not going to close. You're going to have to bring them out." And then he meticulously folded them, which I was quite impressed by. So that story for me is what I'm encouraging y'all to do. When you see something that kind of makes your toes curl because it feels inconvenient or like it's not going to go well, but it's not unsafe and it is your kids working together. I think one key to helping them develop that friendship is to not constantly shut those things down.
Yes, I agree. And also it's just helping them brainstorm things like, what would you like to do this summer that would make the summer special? Let's make a list and let's see how we can make those things happen, you know, or even the reading that we do together as a family. A lot of the books that we read would have families working together doing things, and that inspires, oh, maybe I could do something like that. You know? Like one of my daughters was telling us over the weekend, we do a lot of competitions. We kind of,
which is another great suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, it started with like push-up competitions and chin-up competitions and stuff like that, but it's become more and more elaborate, and our kids are in on it now. So we have a son that sponsors a yearly competition. So we just had our most recent one, which was a family Shark Tank challenge.
What?
And we all presented. Well, you either had to sell yourself as a shark and get on the board to decide where the funding was going. So this son had, you know, they give a certain amount to charity every year anyway. And so they're going to use part of that to fund some things for younger siblings, you know, and so they wanted them to pitch business ideas. It wasn't like Shark Tank in that they weren't asking for a piece of the profits.
Right.
It was just like, present to us what you want, you know, and we'll say yay or nay, and you have one chance to negotiate. Like if you ask for too much and we say, no, we're not going to fund that, you have one chance to negotiate. And so anyway, I'm going to do a whole podcast on this next week because it was such, all of his ideas, he and his wife kind of no, it's actually Samuel and Rebecca, when they got married, made a long list, and they're still working off the list. That
they must be, one of them must be your children.
So anyway, they've done multiple, I mean, this is probably year 8 that they've been doing this. And so this year was Shark Tank. And so one of the girls, actually 2 girls, referred to books that we'd read as a family. But Rebecca's request for the Shark Tank challenge was that she wanted all of us to go to a maple farm during maple tapping season. Because we had read 3 different books, Miracles on Maple Hill and Little House in the Big Woods, and a Tasha Tudor book that all described tapping maple trees and making syrup and the candy that you swirl in the snow and all of this kind of stuff. And she said, this has been a lifelong dream for me, and it's going to cost $10 a person to get in, and they'll teach you how to tap the trees and how to collect the syrup, and you get to do each step in this class. And the children are even, I mean, $10 per adult, and the children are, some of them are free. And anyway, so she was requesting funding for tickets, but then of course families are going to have to dedicate time to get there and also, you know, but still they 100%, all the sharks approved of that. And she had thought of this adventure for our family and said, I think it would be cool for us all to go up and learn how to tap maple trees and make syrup from start to finish. So
where did y'all go?
Well, we haven't yet.
Well,
she just got it funded,
and
you, it's like a real short window once the sap starts flowing. So we're hoping to go in late February, early March. And she had a map of all the different places, but she picked the one closest to home so we could all get there driving, not have to fly to, you know, Vermont or something. It's like a 13-hour drive. And I think it's in Illinois.
Okay.
Maybe Indiana. I can't remember. Anyway, she has the place picked out, and she had done all the research. She had the slides.
Yeah.
And so, but that was definitely inspired by something that we read as a family.
Yeah.
Several different books that we read as a family that described the process. And she thought, oh, this sounds great. And then sometimes it's just innately born in the children that they want to, they're adventurers and they want to take somebody along with them.
Sure.
And that was the case for Benjamin. You know, you guessed, oh, was the challenge Ben? Well, no, that's actually Samuel. But Benjamin, from the time he was maybe like 3 or 4, he was like a little sheepdog. He was always counting heads, just like Mom and Dad do everywhere we go, count heads. And I remember one time going to a homeschool skate, and he came up to me while I was paying, and he had his brother by the hand, and he said, Mom, hold Joe's hand so he doesn't go back on the parking lot.
Because he had gone and gotten him.
No, he was just there. He just knew it was a possibility that he might try to wander back out when others wandered in. No, he was there, and Ben had him all along, you know, but I just thought.
Isn't Joe the one that did tend to escape?
Oh, my goodness, yes, Joe did tend to escape, and Ben recognized that, and so he was helping out, but not because we asked him to, you know, it just, that was in him. And so he brought the little brother to me and said, I've been holding his hand, but I want to go skate. So you hold his hand while you write the check or whatever you're doing, you know? And so he was always one to, oh, Mom, I want to build bike ramps. Can I take the kids with me to build bike ramps on the back of the property? Or Mom, I want to go to Jason's Deli. Can we all ride our bikes to Jason's Deli and eat and then shop at Barnes and Noble? Or, you know, he would just come up with things, again, that in a group with older kids with them were not dangerous. You know, I mean, anything could happen anywhere, I know, but it was something I felt comfortable with them doing. And he would come up with these plans, or can we just hike down to the bamboo forest is near our old house. There was a grove of bamboo, and they would go and chop them down, bring them home, make teepees. And so they would just come up with ideas, again, very creative, resourceful. And anytime I could say yes, I tried to say yes.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's key too.
Yes.
There's a couple of things that I've seen recently of say yes culture that I felt like were making it where like it was almost like a game to word a no as a yes. Like there's a particular account that does this, and she's giving instructions. It's actually I think it's more the framing of it that makes me wonder than the actual practice, because she's giving instructions. So instead of saying, no, you can't do that, you got to do this, it's like, well, let's do this because, so it's more of like a yes, which I think is a great idea. However, obviously, our kids are going to encounter no's in their lives, and we have to be willing to give those as well. But when they matter and when they're important, as opposed to simply when they make our lives easier.
Yes, that is so important.
And I think one of the points that you made is kind of the counterpart to one of the points that I often make about building sibling relationships and building the camaraderie, which is that I say to get the media out that is mocking sibling relationships and making it sound like you're a dweeb if you like being around your brother, or making the assumption that, of course, families hate each other, or the teenager is mean to the younger child, or things like that. So get those out of your life for sure. They don't serve you. They're not telling the truth in the sense of potential that's there. It may be what you're actually experiencing in your house, but if you want to turn that around, you don't want to perpetuate it. But you're actually saying, then replace them with good literature and media that actively promotes families getting along, liking each other, being kind to each other, because that is super inspiring to our kids. We have to think about what we're putting in. You referenced collective culture, and you said to me, you talk about this. She's referencing a chapter in You Betcha Stretch Marks.
Yes, I know. I think it's a green sticky note.
I love that you remember
on this
that.
side of the page.
Where I'm talking about how we deal with the feeling of not being enough for our kids. In fact, I think the name of the chapter is...
it's something, it's chapter 9.
Enough because God made us so.
Absolutely.
So this is something that I've talked about on social media, but this is an entire chapter dedicated to this anxiety that so many moms have, that they're not doing enough. They aren't inherently enough for their kids. They haven't been diligent enough. And because I know the kind of messages that I get all the time, if you listened to Jennifer talking about her kids doing this, that, or the other, and again, you're like, oh, wow, I missed the boat. My kids don't do any of those things. That's not their personalities. Where did I go wrong? I mean, I will say this about both Jennifer and Doug, her husband. You guys are unusually organized, unusually hardworking, unusually well-read. Like, this is not saying they're exceptional. You can't be. But we see certain traits being passed down to our children that we didn't necessarily even foster in them. They're just there, like she's talking about with Ben.
Yes.
And so when I think, okay, do I have any, that are making these elaborate things? Well, maybe they haven't gotten there yet, and maybe they will. But instead of saying, well, I don't, so I must have failed, I should be inspired to say, oh, what a good idea.
Yes.
If I see that tendency, I can nudge them toward okay, you want to do that. Who would be the best person to do that with?
Yes.
I already do that with, for example, we have a sport court with 2 pickleball courts and a shorter basketball court, but there's a goal on each end. And so Theo, who loves pickleball, Honor loves pickleball as well. They're 10 and 8. Theo's always wanting to play up. So he wants to play with mom and daddy. He wants to play with Ezra. And of course we do play with him, but we're also encouraging him to play down, so to speak, and say, look who you have as a built-in partner, best friend, a little closer to you in size and age. So, and of course there's kind of that resistance of no, I want to be big. I want to play with people that are really good. But then when you encourage them, guess what? Your younger brother feels that same way about you.
Yes.
That's who he sees you as.
Yes.
You're his opportunity.
And what an opportunity it is to invest in the younger siblings. Yes, I think casting that vision for our children is really important too. One thing that we did in our family was we told the kids, you're not allowed to play with outside friends if you're not getting along with siblings.
Yeah.
That's your brothers and sisters are going to be family for the rest of your life. The friends, the neighbors, the school classmates or teammates or whatever are going to come and go. They're going to, you may not even know where they are 10 years from now, but your brother and your sister are still going to be there, God willing. And, you want to invest first there. And if you're having trouble getting along with them, then we're not going to bring anybody outside in until you rectify that situation. The other thing, talking about finding inspiration in what others do and adapting it to your family, that's so important, not because comparison is such a thief of joy. You just don't want to fall into that trap. And we're all susceptible to it. I remember being on a panel discussion one time with a lot of other homeschool moms. There's just 4 of us, and they had asked a question, and it started at that end, and I was the last one, but the one 2 down from me was talking about teaching her kids Latin. And I thought, oh my goodness, I loved Latin in school. Why did I not? I took 3 years of Latin. I love Latin. It was so helpful to me. Why have I not taught my kids Latin? And even as I'm sitting there in front answering questions, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I failed. I failed my children. I haven't taught them Latin. But, the fact is, if they want to learn Latin, I've given them the tools, and I can get them the books, and they can learn Latin, but that wasn't really important to us at the time. And it's okay that this other family learned Latin and we didn't.
Absolutely.
It does not have to, God made us all so unique, and we should I happen to have a child that loved to play, plan adventures, but you have a child that loves to play basketball and pickleball, and and so you just run with what God gives you, and encourage each of your children in the way they should go. I mean, it's an individual
100%. And I think we can pretty easily recognize, unless we get prideful, which obviously is a problem in and of itself, because there is what I'm speaking to in this chapter, where it's almost a paralyzing fear that I could never be enough. And I do speak to very practical ways to push that back and to say, no, I'm investing intentionally. So I think this will be a balm for many stressed out moms' hearts. But then, of course, you can swing the other direction and be like, look what I have wrought. Look at my community oriented, A+ grade, just impressive, polished children. And then we lose sight of the fact that the Lord has been gracious to us to put breath in our bodies, much less give us X, Y, and Z. And so, I think, for example, of Evie and Nola and the fact that they're releasing a book in a year and that someone might hear that and go, oh, I don't have any kids that are publishing books, but I know the backstory, which is that we stumbled along and burned so many brownies and I lost my temper sometimes because there were so many messes in the kitchen and I had to repent, and the girls had to learn to, craft their skill and I'm helping them with the book. It's not like two 12-year-olds just popped out all of the recipe formatting and all of that stuff. It's a collaborative effort. And so sometimes we see, I said this on a podcast the other day because it just came to my brain, and maybe it sounds silly to be like, I made up, or I used a really good metaphor, go me, but it just came to my brain. I was like, that's what it's like. It's like you're seeing the front of an embroidery tapestry and you're like, this is so impressive. And if you look at the back, there's all these snarled threads and all of these like mistakes and reknotting and all of the things that you had to do to get it pretty and presentable.
Yes.
And sometimes when we turn that around and show people, it's like, no, this thing really is as cool as it seems, but also look at all the hard work and mistakes and kind of frazzled parts, because very rarely is it one or the other. It's not That's all a mess and it's not all pretty.
No. And that whole idea of enough only through Christ, like God equips those that he calls, and he will stretch you.
Yes.
Your stretch marks. He's going to stretch you as a mother to do what he's called you to do and equip you to do what he's called you to do.
100%.
And it is a balance, because I do remember being brought to that point where I realize I'm not enough. I can't do this in my own strength. That is like, I think his goal for us is to get us to that point, to realize that we have to have his grace to do what he's called us to do. We can't do it on our own, but his grace is all sufficient and is made perfect in weakness. Aren't you glad?
Right. It is an absolute paradox to the world who says, strength is strength.
Yes.
It is only when you get to the really, big muscle up version of CrossFit that you're impressive, or the top of the CEO where you can handle all of the pressure and the high powered deals, or the, 4.0 GPA or whatever. Those we can clap for. And the Bible just makes it really clear that God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the strong, is what it says. And the things that were not, he made something.
Yes.
Which is why I called the chapter Enough Because God Made Us. So not enough because you just are in and of yourself. You said something in a post about this book that made me so happy, because as I said, she's the first to read any of the words in my books, and she gives me such valuable feedback. Plus, we are grammar buddies. Yes. So if something slips through me, I had the hardest time with hyphens in MS for Mama. Would use the wrong hyphens, or hyphenate the wrong thing. And she'll catch it because you're a grammar fiend. And so, you had a post that you wrote, and you said that You Bet Your Stretch Marks was your favorite of my books.
It is. And that's saying a lot, because you know how much I love the other two also.
I will say this, that I think we all need to be Jennifer Flanders to somebody in our lives, because, you have been the biggest cheerleader for my books. I remember you're telling me about MS for Mama before it was even released that it was going to be a bestseller. And I remember like tearing up, because not only did I not believe that that was true, because how could it be? But I didn't have anybody. I mean, my husband is very encouraging, but his personality would not be likely. Like he is.
Yes.
He's warm and friendly and generous and personable and has a great sense of humor, but he's also a businessman, and he's like, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, kind of thing. So you just had no problem going out there and declaring it, and you turned out to be right.
Yes.
But it was there's something about having someone who believes in you so like intentionally and positively. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you do it in a way that like you're just making stuff up.
No.
Because you're a very truthful person.
Well, it's not just that I believe in you. I believe in your message, Abby. And you have just undergirded it so well with God's truth. That is what I love about your writing, is that it is just drenched with scripture. And this one is my favorite. I loved M is for Mama. I even loved Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad even more, because I knew that was really your heart's cry. That is your life motto. Hard is not the same thing as bad. And I enjoyed reading Sean's part of it. But this one, the content is superb, like it always is. It is so much scripture. Again, just every page almost is dripping with scripture. And then I love the artwork Lindsay did. She just outdid herself with all of this.
Oh, I just saw one. I know that not everybody can see this because not everybody watches on YouTube, but I just saw one of my favorites. It was the roller coaster. Where did that go?
Yes.
I may not find it again.
I think there's a,
she's going to tell me which sticky note color she has on it so we can find it for the people that are watching.
Right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like an old fashioned roller coaster.
Yeah, I love that because I loved roller coasters when I was little. I don't like them so much.
I had to work my way up to loving roller coasters. I was kind of a scaredy cat when I was little. See what I mean? She is just someone who enthusiastically speaks life. And that is one of my favorite things about you. Not because it's just compliments, because she is also someone that enthusiastically speaks truth. And there have been a couple of times where I've said something and you're like, that's a lie from the enemy, or Abby, I don't know that I would do that because, that's not in line with what I expect from you. Like she'll tell it to you straight.
This is the first book that I've gone through again once I got it back and looked at all the edits that I had suggested. And I was so happy that you had used almost everything I did.
Yeah.
And the two that I found two that you didn't, and you were right and I was wrong. I told you to hyphenate half mile, which if it were a modifier, I walked a half mile loop around the block, then you'd hyphenate it, but you were using it as a noun and you don't hyphenate it, And so you were absolutely right on that. And then another one where I thought you had left out an Oxford comma, a serial comma, but it was, I don't remember the exact passage, but it was something like peanut butter and jelly, comma, ham and cheese. And I told you needed a comma after ham, but it wasn't actually a series. It was like two
separate things.
Nouns. Yes. And so you left that one. You ignored me on that one too, which I thought, thank you, Abby, because that was wrong. I was wrong. You were right on that one. But
I told you she knows her grammar.
So, so the artwork is gorgeous. I love this cover.
It is my favorite cover.
It is my
favorite cover.
And you had shown me several iterations of this.
Yeah.
And I thought I would like the blue. I like blue.
Yeah, I do too.
And teal and all that. But this looks so pretty with the peach. I really do. Coral.
It's close
coral. And then also each chapter ending with encouragement from older mamas.
Yeah.
That really spoke.
That was really important to me.
volumes.
I've talked about this before, but I do not care where you get your wisdom, as long as it truly is wisdom from the Lord.
Yes.
I don't think that it's coming from me makes it better, or coming from you makes it better. Other than that, like, we both genuinely love the Lord and we want to help people. Like, I think that desire is there in both of us for sure. But, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Like, it's just kind of straightforward. It's just like, find the good, solid knowledge from God's word and get it where you can. But I do feel like I have so much to learn still. And I do feel like when there's strength in numbers, and that looking to the generation ahead and saying, okay, you have grandchildren, you have adult children that have strayed, and you're still faithful to the Lord and still like kind to them and praying for them and holding out for their, repentance and
Mhm.
return. Or you have adult children that have not strayed, but are walking through really hard things, and you're faithfully walking through them with them.
Mhm.
Lisa Jacobson has a disabled daughter,
Mhm.
and she talks about the reality of the
Mhm.
stretching process
Yes.
of realizing all of your hopes and dreams of a quote unquote normal child have
Mhm.
been dashed. And yet the Lord has been faithful, and this child is a gift. And so I asked, I think I've already said this before on another podcast, but if I have not, I asked 13 women, very specific ones that I prayed
Mhm.
about and talked to my husband about, and all 13 said yes.
I'm so happy they did.
I what are the odds of that?
Yes.
Like, I thought for sure somebody was going to say, this doesn't fit with my schedule. I
Yes.
can't make that deadline.
Uh-huh.
I don't really feel like I want to do that.
Yes.
And all 13 of them very enthusiastically said, I would love to contribute. And all of their contributions, I sent them the chapter that they were responding to.
Yes.
So they didn't have the whole book. They just had the chapter that they were responding to. And then I gave them free reign to write what they felt led to write within a certain number of words.
Yes.
And each one is perfect.
It is.
It is so spirit led.
That when you gave me the copy a couple of weeks ago.
Because you had not read those parts yet.
I hadn't seen those parts. Yeah. And so that was the first thing I did, was go home and read all their words, which were really encouraging. And I know several of those women personally, you know, they're friends. Yeah. And then I've met several more of the women and have followed them for years. Sally Clarkson and Heidi St. John and, you know.
Dorinda Wilson. Yep. September McCarthy. I don't know if you've met her before.
I haven't met her in person, but I have followed her. And so, yes, I love that. And I think that comes from a place of humility to say, I don't know answers, everything. But I know the God who does, and so do all these women that I've asked to contribute.
Yes, and I love that. I'm getting chill bumps right now just thinking about it. I love that when they gave their unique perspectives, the conclusion was always the same. Mm-hmm. The Lord is good. Mm-hmm. Motherhood is a gift, even when it's really, really hard, because it pushes us to the foot of the cross. Mm-hmm. It's worth it if we obey God. That's right. In the process, not if we produce a certain thing in our children, because ultimately we can't. We plant, we water, others water, the Lord brings the harvest. And so I think you're going to be really blessed by that. The chapter that you got the most excited about in this book was chapter 10. I remember you're writing
legacy.
about
Yes.
So,
it's on legacy motherhood. What was it? What was the exact title?
I'll have to look at it.
Yes. Anyway, I told Abby I felt like she could be on a charger, giving a battlefield encouragement to the soldiers in that.
She really did. She was like, I can picture you riding on a horse with a banner.
Yes, like William Wallace or Aragon or somebody like that.
That is what she said.
Don't go weary. Today's not the day you give up.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Because it matters, not just for now, but for the future. The name of the chapter is Mothering with a Legacy Mindset.
Yes.
And my mom contributed to the end of this chapter.
Which I loved what she had to say. I love your mom so much.
I do too, obviously. Yes. I think everybody listening does. Anyone who's ever heard about my mom is like, I want to be that one day. I want to be her when I grow up, which is how I feel too. As far as like the investment in the future and in grandchildren and in helping, like bringing meals when you've had a baby or scrubbing your floors when you haven't gotten to mop them in 2 weeks, or just seeing the need and filling it, because she truly believes that her work was not done or finished when we left the house.
Yes.
So I loved that you got excited for that, because that was one of my favorite chapters to write. And I love that my mom contributed to the end of it. Is it still marked? I'm going to open it back up real quick. Let's see if I can find it. It's this one. And so I was going to read you a bit. I think this one's it. Sorry, guys. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. My mom, Beth Anderson. She wrote at the very end of, at the end of this chapter, she said, raising children demands sacrifice, but the Lord alone produces life. Our kids will have to learn some good, true things the hard way. All seeds must die to bear fruit. John 12:24. Shepherding children can be exhausting, frustrating, and scary, but we are not to live in fear and worry. Jesus himself is our peace, Ephesians 2:14. When we stay focused on him as our hope and strength, he will honor our faith in his time. Hebrews 6:16 through 19, 1 Peter 1:3 through 7, and Ecclesiastes 3:11. Do you see where I get it from? This is what my mom has done for me my entire life, is she has said, yes, Jesus has told us we will have trouble, but we are to be of good cheer because he has overcome it. And part of the way that he's overcome our trouble beyond salvation on the cross for our sins and the promise of eternal life with him is by giving us his word, and that we can go to it as an ever-present help in times of trouble, as wisdom when we don't have a clue what we're doing or how this is going to go, when we don't have a mom that has invested in us. So thank you, Jennifer, for coming on and chatting with us today. And thank you for being such a champion for moms. Jennifer has her own ministry that she's done for years. How many books have you self-authored? Self-published?
About 30, but a lot of those are little devotional things. But
moms love little devotional things.
But my first is still my favorite. It's Love Your Husband, Love Yourself. And because as much of a passion that we have to encourage young mothers, I have a passion to encourage wives too, especially, it's so easy to, as a mom, to pour all your energies into your children and push hubby to the side, like you're just pouring it all out for the kids. And he sometimes feels marginalized or almost like he's in competition with the children for your attention. And I hate to see that. So I love to encourage moms to invest there. Obviously in this day and age, not every mom has a husband at home, but if you do, if you're blessed to have a husband at home, then you want to nurture that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You'll still have that relationship, hopefully, once the kids are grown and gone. So
yeah. And you know what? I was going to wrap up, but let's just speak to that really quickly. Because I know, again, each time that I give like a general principle like that, the follow-up is always, wait, what does that actually look like? Because I have 4 children under 5. My husband works 60-hour weeks. He's on a rotating work schedule, and I solo parent a ton, and I am exhausted, and I feel like we're ships passing in the night. And you're telling me that I have to be a good solo parent, and I have to invest well in these children, and then I also have to nourish my marriage. How do I do that, Jennifer? Like, what does that look like practically for this mom that is just maxed out?
Yes. Again, you do it by the grace of God. And I think if it is important to you to nurture your marriage, you'll find a way to do it. And if it's not important, you'll find an excuse. And so I think, yes, sometimes schedules are hectic. I know that when my husband was in school and his internship year, he worked 120 hours a week. So it was, and I was solo parent to the children that we had at the time, but we preserved our family time at night. So I was home when he did eventually come home. We prioritized reading with the kids and spending time together with them, but then we would put them to bed and have a lock on our door and have time together that was important and has continued to be important to us. It just,
And I would say that probably comparable period in my life would be when we were building this house for 2 years.
Yes.
And especially at the beginning when we had to dry it in, which is where you essentially kind of make it weatherproof against the elements, that Sean was working his day job as a computer programmer. We had 7 children, 6 and then 7 children. I was pregnant and then had a baby during that process. And he was working his day job. He was going over to the house during the evenings and every weekend. And yet, believe it or not, and oddly enough, and I can't even exactly explain to you how, those were some of our most connected times because we were pulling together in the same direction.
Yes.
And so we took those snatches of time that we did have and we made the most of them, and we didn't fight and fuss at each other during them as much as possible. I'm sure there are times that we did, but we gave each other so much grace for the burdens that we were bearing.
Absolutely.
Sometimes when you have that shared mission of something like building a house or getting through a residency, it's more high pressure, which can add a lot of stress and to your marriage and to everything. But if you can think of it in terms of, like I said, two horses pulling the cart in the same direction.
We're not adversaries.
That's a
we're
huge
a team.
thing.
Yes. And also when there are overwhelming things going on in your life, where you do need lots of grace for one another. I mean, you always need grace for one another, but sometimes an extra measure of grace. It's a good time for a conversation as to what is most important to you.
Absolutely.
Have that conversation with your husband. What is most important to you? Is it a hot meal when you get home? Is it a clean house? Is it throw the bedroom lock and have time together alone? That has always been very important to my husband. So even if everything else didn't get done,
right,
because I was prioritizing that aspect of our relationship, he felt loved. Whereas I could have knocked myself out doing all the other things that were not nearly so important to him and neglect that one, and he would not have felt loved.
Right. And vice versa, because again, the response is always going to be, but what if I'm the one that doesn't feel loved?
Yes.
That communication is key, but you're absolutely right that being willing to talk about the priorities when it seems like the time is so limited or you're in such a crunch that you couldn't possibly fit it all in. You don't have to. You have to cover the main basics and be faithful in the small things, that seem that getting people fed and clothed and loved, and then let some things go.
Yes.
And I think it's fine to pray fervently for a change of circumstances that would allow you to have more time together. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the Lord's going to say yes soon or ever, but that season that you're in will change in some way, shape, or form. Your children will get older. You'll get older. Something will change about that so that whatever it is that you feel like you're going through that feels like it will last forever, it won't. It just doesn't, the good or the bad. And being faithful with those small things that you've been given control over and trying to let go of the things that you don't have any control over, instead of saying a good marriage looks like this.
Yes.
This big long list of things. If I can't do all of these things, there's no hope for us.
That's that's a lie.
Yeah. And that's so defeating.
And the thing that is important to my husband may not be important to the next husband. Right. I remember having this conversation at Sunday school with a group of women where they were talking about keeping the house clean, and we were discussing what was most important to our husband in that particular area. And one girl said, my husband likes to have it vacuumed. And if I just run over the vacuum, it doesn't matter if everything's covered with dust or, whatever, he, as long as he comes in and he sees those vacuum marks, he is so happy. And another said, oh, mine doesn't care if it's vacuumed. They just want the clutter put away, so everybody's different. There's some things that are pretty universal, but there's also leeway.
Sure. It's the same way we were talking about raising our kids. You don't look over at somebody else's life and then try to wholesale lift that up and shove your life into that mold. Instead, you say, what principles here are good, right, and true that I can apply instead of saying, I quit, I can't, I would never, it's too much. That kind of, if you want it badly enough, you will work for it. If it's not quite as important to you, you might find yourself saying instead, it's hopeless. Because I think the thing that I have to remind you, and my mom talked about this in Hard Is Not the Same Thing as Bad, some situations don't change in their overall, because my dad is bipolar. My parents are still married. And they are both faithful to that marriage, although it is much harder on one than the other. And if you were to say, well, but since I can't change him, then I will never achieve this. And that's where you truly find yourself saying the Lord is the one filling the gaps.
That's right.
And so far beyond that, he is the foundation. He is the gap filler. He is the roof over my head. He is the one sustaining me. And to be in that situation feels bad sometimes when you don't have so many of the supports that someone else has. But to have that closeness with your Savior that someone else might not have if their hope is in their family or their house or their job, and they don't have that close relationship with the Lord. Between the two, the person that has struggle in their life and a close relationship with the Lord, and a person who doesn't visibly struggle and is far from God, the person who struggles is actually better off.
Yes, I agree.
It's very counterintuitive and very countercultural, but it's the truth.
That reminded me of something you wrote here in, I'm not sure which chapter this is. You only spill what's already inside.
Yeah, you only spill what's already inside.
Yes. You said, okay, talking about being transformed from Second Corinthians 3:16 through 18. And you said, the revelation that you're not as patient or self-controlled or organized or kind as you initially imagined you were is a gift. And I think when you first wrote that, you had the initial revelation. And I told you, you need to move initial to as you initially thought you were, move it because that's a gift. And it's something that you're going to realize over and over and over again throughout your mothering, throughout your marriage, that I'm not
as great as I thought I was.
That's right. And it's such a gift that God continually opens our eyes to that fact and that our need.
Oh, and that it's gradual is such a gift too, because I think if we were hammered with all of our shortcomings, if we went along without maybe necessarily, well, we haven't been married and we haven't had children. So then we get married and we're doing something we've never done before. And that starts rubbing us the wrong way and showing friction and revealing things. Yes. And then we have children. We've never done that before. And you start recognizing, I don't know how many moms have come to me and said, I thought I was a patient person. And then I had children. Yes. Like it was so easy to be patient because I could walk away from the situation.
Yes.
It was so easy to be patient because I could set boundaries. It was so easy to be patient because I could send that person home.
Yes.
And we can't do that. So
that's right.
If we were just dumped on by all of our shortcomings, and God were the kind of God who just said, here's a mirror. Here's how depraved and terrible you are. We would despair, but that's not who God is. He saves us in the midst of our depravity. And then he sanctifies us bit by bit by giving us opportunity after all of them are gifts to go, oh, okay. That's something I thought I was doing great on because I was being, impressing a colleague or showing out for someone else or just not in a high stress situation. Yes. And now this child is consistently showing me that I need to work on this area. And it feels like crushing. It feels like despair sometimes. Feels like you're not going to get better. But truly the revelation that motherhood is worth it if it makes you more like Jesus, and it feels like it's not making you more like Jesus. That's an opportunity to say, I'm not doing this in my own strength.
That's right. And you come to realize that all those earlier successes were just grace from God as well.
Absolutely.
I remember when my Rebecca was born, she's number 7. It was the first time I had really experienced having trouble nursing. She had a hard time latching on. She wasn't gaining weight. By 8 weeks, she still hadn't got back up to her birth weight. Now my babies start big. And so, but still she should have been back to her birth weight by then. And she was failing to thrive. She was starving. And I remember going to the doctor's office with her for a weigh-in and him saying, she's not doing well. And it was like my eyes opened and I saw, oh my goodness, there's hollows in her leg. She's not doing well. I have long, thin babies usually anyway, but I just didn't realize. Anyway, I ended up having to do supplemental nursing system. And he said, give her 2 extra ounces with the little bag that I don't know if you've ever had to do this. And it has a little tube
that you
feed her. Okay. So you like express milk and, or use formula in a little 1 ounce bag. And then there's a little tube that you put in with the nipple to give her extra as she's sucking at the breast. Okay. So he said an extra ounce every 2 hours.
Okay.
It would take her 2 hours to empty the ounce. And it was time to start again.
Gracious.
And I was nursing her around the clock and it was
and
just
you have
like
6 other children.
And I have 6 other children. And I was like, oh, that was grace.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to, but really up until then I thought, if you really want to nurse, you can nurse, if you have, if you don't, it's probably not that important to you, or maybe you didn't have La Leche League helping or, breastfeeding consultants or anything like that. I just kind of, I guess I just thought I was doing it, that was me.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was God. God was so gracious to me. And talk about a perspective shift. Like then after Rebecca, poopy diapers were like a cause for rejoicing. Like, yay. Everything's working like it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work. Yes. And like, praise the Lord, she's poopy. Whereas before they'd have a blowout and you think, oh my goodness, I just changed them and now I have to do it all over again. It's like, oh, yay, everything is working. Everything is working. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And that, I mean, we could go off on an entire different podcast about that, because I do think that we have a culture that very much so objects to anything that smacks of what they call toxic positivity. And so I even saw someone posting about, like, can we please be a little more realistic about the things that we're thanking God for? Like being so, when my toddler has, a meltdown, it's an opportunity to spend time with them and to love them well. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try to have that be my perspective.
Yes,
but,
yes,
it may not be what we can get to. Sometimes the Lord has to have us in these situations.
Go through a hard season that gets you there.
Right. And I don't think it has to be the same for every child.
No.
Like every child, you don't have to be cheering because they're pooping.
Yes.
But when you have those moments, when you recognize the common grace that you've been receiving and taking for granted or crediting to yourself, because I have definitely done the same in different areas where you're just like, well, I must just be doing this right. And I'm looking over here and I can't see anything that this person's doing, but there must be some flaw because it's working for me. And then you realize, like, how arrogant. No, it's just, we all have different struggles, and it isn't unkind of the Lord to give them that struggle, but it is like a grace that I'm not particularly in, that I am not experiencing that struggle right now. Cause I will have something for sure. Yes. And just that attitude of gratitude so much. Well, Jennifer, thanks for being on with me. And for we were talking, we're about to blow your minds. So we were talking about the fact that this book title has resonated with so many people and they absolutely love it.
I love it.
But there are some people that have said, like, well, I don't have stretch marks, or I'm an adoptive mom. And so I can't relate to that. And neither one of us, we just discovered, have traditional stretch marks. We do have stretch marks, just not necessarily the ones on the belly, which is so interesting because, again, that's a wonderful visual reminder of the sacrifice. But I have a wonderful visual reminder of the sacrifice on my leg right now. So my stretch marks, so to speak, are varicose veins that I got after, it started with Della, who's my third, and really ramped up with my first set of twins, and then progressively got worse and worse. It's only my right leg. And they are certainly not as severe or debilitating as some people experience, but they're not nothing. And so I actually just had surgery to work on those. And so I'm sitting here with my right leg all wrapped up, but it is a reminder of this thing that quote unquote motherhood did to me, which I would do again over and over and over again, because, and even, I mean, this surgery is for future health and for pain and for things like that. My leg will look better, but I'm 43, almost 43 years old. Like, my leg is just my leg at this point, And so, I feel like it's such, just sometimes when we have these really obvious reminders of the sacrifices that we've made, and we can step back and say, we have options. We can step back and say, I resent this. I, wouldn't do this again, because some people say that. Yes. You do hear that. Or you can have this really keen reminder, like, my leg's in pain and it's all wrapped up in gauze and looks really funny and it's going to take a while to heal and has been really lumpy and weird for a long time, and say, but what an opportunity to be marked by the grace of God through motherhood, to be given this day in, day out opportunity to sacrifice and to be sanctified. Yes. I've said that multiple times before, and I don't know if it resonates with anyone else, but it's a good reminder to myself that motherhood is built-in sanctification that we might not otherwise have on a day-to-day basis if we had complete control over our schedules and our interactions with other people. I think for me personally, if that were the case, I'd probably avoid a lot of the uncomfortable
Yes.
things that I've had to deal with in life.
Yes. I know I would.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the human condition. So no, go ahead.
Last Thanksgiving, when we gather as a family, we always go around in a circle and tell what we're thankful for.
We do the same.
And
then we take a drink of hot chocolate.
Oh,
that's our tradition.
That's smart. We don't have hot chocolate at Thanksgiving.
Our hot chocolate it's in the morning. So it's not at the, we do it in the morning for breakfast. Okay. That's Thanksgiving morning.
Well, last Thanksgiving, we had circled, and my husband was one of the last ones to say, and he said, I'm just so thankful that we haven't had any crises or trauma or
goodness,
anything like that this year. It's just been a really nice break, And then the next week, my grandson was helicoptered to Dallas.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, intubated, and we didn't know if he was going to live or die.
Oh my goodness.
A little 2-3-year-old. And then we had about 3 different car wrecks. Some of them totaled the car. And then I got my cancer diagnosis. I mean, like boom, 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 like in the next 3-4 weeks.
Yep.
It was just like, and it was almost, the timing was really comical, because it was like God was just, was saying, I'm glad you enjoyed the breather, but that's not really where you grow.
That's not where you grow. That's not where your hope is.
And that's right. And so let's get back to work.
Which Jennifer did have a cancer diagnosis, but you are
cancer free. Yeah. I mean, I had a lumpectomy, and then everything indicates that everything's gone. I didn't do the traditional chemo and radiation and all that. I elected to just change the diet and do some fasting and prayer and exercise, and good results. So
you've gotten blood work and scans, and
absolutely.
You are completely free.
Yes.
So, that's amazing. Praise the Lord. So interestingly enough, 3 of the moms that contributed to the end of my chapters have all had some sort of cancer diagnosis or scare within the last year.
Yes.
So if you think to pray for Heidi St. John, who is recovering well, and Dorinda Wilson, who is fighting cancer very much so. She has stage 4, I believe. And is very actively fighting it, and I know is encouraged and bolstered by prayer. That would be really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And God was so faithful to give us so many people praying for us.
Absolutely. My
big family plus lots of friends and
when we do family Bible reading, we go in order of age. And so you probably got prayed for by 8 people in a row.
That's so great.
Because they all repeat what the next what the previous one said.
That's so great.
Especially the little ones. So yes, prayer definitely has a huge impact, and we need to pray for those ladies. And if you have not yet pre-ordered You Bet Your Stretch Marks, I would love it if you did. If you are waiting for it to come out, which it comes out, this releases on a Wednesday. It comes out next Tuesday on September 2nd. And don't think it matters when you order. The publishing industry has really gotten very into pre-orders.
Yeah.
So they will look at how many books they order for themselves and then push out to customers based on how many people ordered ahead of time, how much interest there is. So it actually does matter when you order. So if you have any interest in this book, we'll put the link to that in the show notes. We'll put the link to all of Jennifer's resources in the show notes, because you have a website full of so many articles. Oh my goodness. You have a podcast, and we'll put all of the information for Jennifer's things there. And we hope that this has been a blessing to you. And I have a feeling I will immediately be asked for Jennifer to come back on, because I know you are such a huge blessing to people, and your attitude towards motherhood, towards the Lord, and just the practical ways you encourage are such a blessing to so many people.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
I hope that's my goal.
The Lord is helping you achieve it by His grace. All right. You guys have a great rest of your week. If you enjoy the Emma's for Mama podcast, I would be so honored if you would subscribe and follow along, maybe share with friends, or even leave a review. And if you want more content on motherhood and biblical responses to cultural issues, be sure to follow along on Instagram at m.is.for.mama.